couple of things. We weren't clean executing early on, especially in the pass game. And it wasn't just the obvious protection. There were some spacing things that whether it was week one, we could all do a better job. But we were able to adapt, and we were able to play as a team.
Just play our game. I'll take a lot of that, especially, right there towards halftime, coming in that back last 8 minutes. I'll take a lot of that on me. A lot of that was me out there, trying to do too much, not staying within our reads. And so that's where I felt like I got, not only myself but our offense in a lot of trouble.
Passing game, and it's on everybody, and that I promise you will get cleaned up.
Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce was back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. Week 1 is in the books, and the Atlanta Falcons beat the Carolina Panthers 24-10 in a performance of ups and downs, things that were impressive and things that were questionable. And we're going to talk about it and break it down here. This is your Week 1 recap before they go on to Week 2 and play the Green Bay Packers, coming to Atlanta for another game. So crowd needs to get hype, crowd needs to be loud. But you know how we do it here. We go ahead and get right into it. Let's just get into it. Let's talk about the biggest thing that came out of the game. We're going to talk about the defense later, about how they did some very impressive things, and there's still some things they need to work on. It's week 1. Everybody is trying to get, their identities and everything down, but we're going to talk about the offense, because the offense was a big topic of discussion. Des Ridder has his first start after a full off season as being QB1, and there was a lot of things to have to really break down here. First things first, we obviously know, Desmond has a lot of pressure on this year. People are trying to figure out, is he truly the quarterback of the future? And yesterday probably didn't answer any of those questions. Probably, there were multiple things that affected the offense that struggled last year. This game. And first, in the first half, if you watch the game, Brian Burns completely dominated Caleb McGarry, and Desmond Ridder was under tons of pressure. It felt like on every drop back. And so that, obviously, if you've gone through a team whose offensive line is bad and then they have to protect a QB, that can affect the QB's game tremendously. And the thing about it was, and somebody actually had a couple of pictures of it on their Twitter. I can't remember their name right now, but they had a couple of pictures that show when Desmond completed his drop, those defensive ends for Carolina, or mainly Brian Burns, was already in the backfield with him. So he just got to the end of his drop and was already under intense heat. And that obviously can affect, how he reads the defense. That can maybe cause him to panic quicker, maybe try to go outside of the box, because it's like, oh, somebody's right here, I got to do something. So that was an idea. I felt like play calling was a little questionable as well. I felt like Arthur Smith did not do a really good job of making sure that Desmond was comfortable. Usually you saw it with Bryce Young, actually. They tried to give him easy throws to get him comfortable, because that's what you want to do. You want to build confidence, get him comfortable, get a little rhythm, and then you can start opening up the offense a little bit more. And I felt like with Arthur, he didn't do that. He basically was just telling Desmond to drop back and scan. And obviously, maybe he had more confidence in his offensive line, but realistically, I felt like, you needed to maybe call plays that Desmond is good with, maybe plays that can still help move the ball and make him be effective and efficient and things like that. Because a part of also these game planning with these young QBs is, you really want to always do what they do best and then start trying to do other things. You don't want to just start saying, we just need you to do this. Because the only problem with that can be is that, are you playing to their strengths? I felt like his play calling at times was a little conservative too. People are wondering, is that a matter of they don't trust Desmond? Is that a matter of maybe the offensive line was struggling so much in that first half that he wasn't sure? I don't think we can block them and call these plays. I don't know. He tried to get Bijan in space. He tried to get, guys, on the screens, on third downs and things like that. And it was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, you don't think Desmond can maybe try to make a throw at least? I think a lot more people wanted them to be more aggressive in the passing game, which they weren't. But outside of later in the game. But, I think those are all things that impacted the offense and why they struggled. Now, running the football was great. That's something that Falcons have been able to do, and they will probably be able to keep doing, is running the football. That's something that I don't think will be an issue. That's something that will probably be a top 5 rushing attack this year. Bijan is all advertised. What you thought you got when you drafted this man is what you saw. That cut he made to make that man miss, the stop, the suddenness to make Panthers defenders fly right by him, and then go into the end zone, break a couple more tackles on top of that. That shows you the type of player Bijan Robinson is, and how talented he is as a guy, and why they drafted him so high. He's a guy who just comes off as a very impactful player, and that's what they wanted. And then Tyler Algier, people have been saying when they drafted Bijan, Tyler Algier's role will diminish. And I'm like, what do you mean? You do realize a lot. Like, I feel like some people believed Bijan would get 20, 25 carries to catch the ball 5-6 times. I'm like, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I see Bijan carrying it 10 to 15 and then getting 5 to 6 catches. So let's say they run the ball 30, 35 times a game. That's still an extra 10 to 12, 13 carries for Tyler Algier. So, and he's a guy, he's a one-cut guy. He gets downfield, more physical running back. I don't see how, I've always said they kind of remind me a little bit of like Chris Johnson, Lendell White. A little bit, except I think Algier's a little bit more nimble than Lendell. And, you know, everybody remembers that duo in Tennessee back in the day. So that's what they kind of always reminded me of. Or if you want to do LaDainian Thomas and Michael Turner, that also is a good comparison as well. So I think running backs wise, they'll be fine. It'll be interesting when Cordero comes back, which I think he will be back this week, how he's, you know, integrated to the offense of what he's planning to do. You saw Bijan at times be moved into motion, do different things, and kind of just stay on top of and staying just all over the place and trying to game plan. Obviously, within the game plan, they thought, okay, we can maybe get mismatches. Now, obviously, the passing game wasn't great, so we don't know fully what it would have looked like within the passing perspective, but you could see that they clearly do plan to use Bijan all over the place, and I would think that you're going to do the same thing with Cordell Patterson as well. So overall, I think the offense, you know, needs to be better. Desmond made a throw late to Kyle Pitts, really good throw, and I think that's something that a lot of people were like, why weren't we doing this more, you know? So we'll see. Arthur Smith, as you heard, he said we're going to get the passing game right. So all you can believe is that they're going to work on that this week, and they're going to hopefully make the improvements that they feel like is needed for them to be able to be successful moving forward and be able to actually have an efficient passing attack. Because you beat Carolina 24-10 with basically an anemic offense. So that should actually be good at the same time, but also concerning because, you know, we got to fix some things. And one thing I want to also say that actually is not talked about a lot is the Falcons scored 3 times off all 3 Panthers turnovers that they had gotten this game. And so the offense, at least in those situations, where it was able to do something to put points on the board. And that's pretty much where the majority of their offense came from. I believe they scored a total of 17 points off turnovers. So that obviously will make an impact and do a lot for the team moving forward and continue to help them grow. Because obviously it's week 1. A lot of teams actually on week 1, if you watch week 1, if you're a football fan in general, wasn't great offensively this week. And obviously, again, you know, a lot of guys, you know, trying to get their chemistries right. You know, some guys, you know, you're playing real snaps, not preseason snaps. Because preseason, everybody's using vanilla defenses. If you're going against actually game planning defenses, showing different looks, showing different things at you. So hopefully, like I said, the Falcons are going to need it next week, though, if they're going to have to be able to compete with Green Bay. But going to the defensive side, defensively, I mean, it's a game of I loved what I saw, but there are also things that concern me. But there's improvement. This is probably the best defense we've had this entire time under Arthur Smith's regime, no doubt. And it makes sense with all the additions you made. You made a lot of additions. I think they said we added 14 new defensive players, which is the most in the NFL from this past offseason. So you clearly expect a different result on the defensive side. I think you got that. Jesse Bates, first of all, is him. He balled out in this game. He had 2 picks, a forced fumble. You know, he was all over the field, and he is the true leader of this secondary. He is the true just the defensive general. He will lead this secondary and make everyone better. He's a guy who has experience. He's been to Super Bowls. He's been to AFC Championship games. He's had a lot of success with Cincinnati. Now he wants to bring that here to Atlanta. He's going to help coach up Richie. He's going to help coach up AJ. He's going to help AJ be a better player. Even though AJ is one of the better corners in this game, you saw AJ had one of his best games, the AJ Terrell we were used to watching 2 years ago. And obviously you have to give credit to defensive backs coach Jerry Gray. He's also been a revelation for this secondary. And that's why I'm really excited to see when Jeff Okudah gets back what that looks like. how good can this secondary really be? Obviously, yesterday, Trey Flowers had to start for Jeff Okudah. Trey Flowers was the weak point in the secondary. And at times, I saw the Panthers trying to I could see in Bryce's progressions that he was trying to, look over there, see, okay, that's who we're going to attack. I remember multiple throws. You really saw Trey Flowers around a lot because they know that's the weak point of our secondary. But for the most part, I think Trey Flowers held up pretty well. I think he didn't let up any big plays. That's really all you really ask for from guys in that situation. It's can you hold up? Can you do what you keep things in front of you? And I think Trey Flowers did actually a really good job at that. So we really did good things there on the secondary. Pass rush was still very questionable. We were able to get to him late, Bryce Young late in the game, but early in the first 3 quarters, Bryce Young had a lot of time. And I don't know if I'm the only one who saw this. I was a bit confused by some of from the defensive line rotations. I didn't really see a lot of Arnold Ebiketie out there, and I'm a little confused. I know Bud Dupree got the start, but I feel like the thing that I would expect, especially on third downs, every team has their pass rushing package. You may throw an extra defensive end out there or something, to get your best pass rushers out there to go after the quarterback. And I felt like I'm seeing Bud and I'm seeing Caden, because Caden is kind of like a pass rusher linebacker. I noticed they used him as, on third downs, they might use him as a pass rusher. And then first 2 downs, he's a linebacker because he has that versatility. But I felt like Arnold wasn't out there a lot. And I'm like, well, we drafted him to be that guy as a pass rusher. So I was surprised he didn't play that much in that regard. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but there were times we're losing. I mean, I get it because we have versatility across the entire defensive line. A lot of I feel like we were using 3 defensive tackles at times. And then we had Bud going after the passer. And I'm like, Calais is on the end. And I'm like, listen, I love Calais, but I don't think he needs to play in defensive end in a pass rushing situation. The best thing you hope for there is that he's tall so he can bot down passes, or he just dominates whoever he's against. Because obviously if you dominate a player, that doesn't matter anymore. But I felt like it really wasn't our best pass rushing effort from coaching and from who we had out there, maybe. I don't know. I would have thought we would have saw more Arnold Ebiketie. Also, the thing about what Ryan Nielsen was doing yesterday, which overall I think Ryan Nielsen actually did a good job. I think as the game progressed, he actually got better with his play calls, which shows growth as the first-time defensive coordinator that he is. And that just shows he learns, he wants to be better. And that's honestly what you want. Those guys, you can see he is intense on the sideline. The players love him. And I think that's going to be a great, just a great combination between him and the players for years to come, but obviously if he has a lot of success with our defense, he'll probably start getting head coaching opportunities. But I know we don't want to talk about that right now, but just something to have to keep an eye on in the future. But I was like, I feel like he didn't blitz a lot. He did a lot of he tried to confuse the offensive line a lot. He did a lot of pressure looks and then drop back. Still 4 guys rushing, but you just didn't know who for. He was trying to confuse the defense a little bit, trying to do some stunts, which I get. I mean, he's trying to be, creative with the defense. He doesn't want to just be straight blitzing all the time, everything. But he was trying to maybe can we confuse them? Can we, give? And that may be because we're playing a rookie quarterback. That may be because they want to give Bryce Young a bunch of different looks, and so they wanted him to have to think and have to slow down because he's like, oh, who's open, who's working in these progressions, who's working in these schemes. That could be exactly why they maybe played the way they played defense yesterday. But in the second half, pass rush got better, and you saw when they blitzed, they were able to get home Troy Anderson. He's like a heat-seeking missile when he goes through the offensive line. I've been saying that since last year. When he is rushing the passer, he is unbelievable when it comes to that. And it just feels like he blows up plays legitimately because he's just so fast. So, I think overall, but your defense created 3 turnovers. You haven't, even from last year, the Falcons have now gone 7 straight games without letting an opponent score over 21 points. That's really impressive for a unit that we pretty much malign as a terrible defense. They have pretty much, even beginning at the end of last year, became a bend but not break kind of a defense. And I think that in and of itself shows the progression and the progress this defense has made. Only letting up 10 points to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, that's big. That showed you the progress that this defense has made. you feel like if they, and then obviously they got gashed a little bit in the run game. You obviously want that to improve as well. It's like, that's what I said. You saw really good things from the defense. That's like, oh man, like, okay, I see what's going on here. But then at the same time, you saw things like, okay, we need to improve that if we're going to be good moving forward. There's a lot of things to clean up on both sides of the ball for the Falcons. And, Arthur Smith acknowledged there's stuff to clean up. I'm sure Ryan Nielsen will acknowledge we got to clean up. We got to just clean it up and get better because, listen, you got Green Bay coming in this week. They look really good. Jordan Love looks like he might be a good quarterback. Aaron Jones is one of the better running backs in this game. They have a really good offensive line. They have a really good defensive line. Their defense as a whole is really good, so the offense has to get their stuff together. And this game coming up, I will say, is probably a big test game, all right, let's see what we truly are kind of a game. That's what I think this game is. This is a true, like, all right, if we really are ready, if we really think we are a playoff team, we got to beat Green Bay or Detroit, one of the two, because they're both teams that are probably going to be competing for the NFC North division title, and both could be playoff teams. These two games coming up will be big for this roster, but there's things to clean up. Desmond has to be better. Arthur Smith has to be better. Offensive line has to be better. We got to be better at pass rush. We got to be better in the run. We know what our things are that we need to improve. Now they have to go and improve it. Like Arthur Smith said, what you are week 1 and what you are week 16, week 17 are two different teams. You would hope to get better as the year progresses. Falcons continue to improve, they'll be well. And listen, I want to give credit to the coaching staff as well, because they made adjustments. Brian Birds was tearing them up in the first half. They made adjustments. They protected better in the second half. The offense seemed to get into a little bit more rhythm, like not crazy, but it seemed more cohesiveness in the second half with the offense. I think Desmond settled in. Desmond's had this knack of first half of games kind of being, and then second half settling in a little bit more, looking more comfortable. Obviously, if we're going to continue to make that next step, and if he's going to prove that he could be the quarterback of the future, he has to potentially start having to play like that from the start of games, because you don't want to, the team gets down big earlier because you're not playing your best and because you're not, 100% situated into the game. But like I said, that's also on Arthur Smith to make sure that he gets Desmond situated and comfortable within the game and the game plan. So all of these things overall are going to be interesting. I think the Falcons, like I said, the fact that we had that type of offensive anemic performance, but still was able to beat Carolina, I think that shows a lot of what this team can actually do and what the potential of this team. I think this team has so much potential. And I think every fan can see that. Like, there's a lot of potential with this team. And I think that's why it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this roster and what happens with Smith and what happens as the season progresses, because it feels like this team could be really good. We've seen it a little bit now in the first game of the year against the Panthers. Now can we get to that point where you feel like this is what we should be as a team as the season progresses? So that will be something to keep an eye on moving forward. But, that's all. I don't want to keep you guys too long. Just want to give you my thoughts and my breakdown on week 1 against the Panthers. Like I said, we got some things to fix, obviously. And also, I know people probably want me to mention this. Yes, we do need to get Kyle Pitts and Drake London more involved. Our 2 top pass catchers really didn't make much of an impact. Kyle Pitts made that big catch late, like I mentioned earlier, but outside of that, really wasn't that much impact from those guys. Obviously threw the ball 18 times, but just, we have to be able to make sure that we could maximize every player on this team. And if we could do that, that will only lead to us being more successful as the weeks go on. But that's all I got for you guys. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.
Hey, man, that's the way we start the season off right there, man. 1 week at a time. Hey, rise up, baby. It was fun playing in front of y'all. We need y'all next week.